Here are the best waiver wire pickups for Week 11 in fantasy football. We're going to start it off with Isiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. Isiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon are both benefiting from seeing Clyde get reduced workload. Throughout the year, it's been a three-man backfield, and over the last 5 weeks, we've seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire decline in snaps each of those 5 weeks, and last week he was almost completely out of the picture with no rushes and 2 targets for no receptions. So barely on the field. He's been trending down this whole time. And now Pacheco seems like the priority ad here. He was the starter. He saw over half of the snaps, and he got 16 of the team's 18 running back carries. So these two guys are great ads. And Pacheco, he's been efficient. He didn't have a great fantasy day. I think he only had 6.2 points. He had 82 rushing yards, no receptions, no targets, and a fumble. So you may be able to get him for cheap. He might be able to sneak past some of your guys in the waiver order, and you might not have to bid as much on him because he didn't have that, explosive performance. And then McKinnon, he seems to be the, receiving back. He's got 8 targets in 2 straight weeks, and he's almost seeing half of the snaps in those 2 weeks as well. So if this trend continues, it's looking like it's going to be a split backfield for these two guys, and both of them are going to be valuable. If Clyde can stay out of the picture, then that's going to basically end this 3-man backfield that's been ruining all of their value. In the first 4 weeks, we saw Clyde get 20-plus points in those 4 weeks, and there's a lot of touchdowns that can go to these running backs. So on any given week, Isiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon can score, and you can immediately plug them in and play them, this week. So if you've been struggling at running back, these guys are only 33% for Pacheco and 25% owned for McKinnon. So they're widely available. They're going against the Chargers next week, so you can immediately line them up, and I would do that, and I would put in bids for both of these guys on the waiver this week.
Yep, agree. These are going to be weekly flexes / bye-week fill-ins that have higher upside because of how good the offense that they're in is. So as we saw early in the year where Clyde scored an insane touchdown pace, these guys could do that exact same thing. Next up is going to be Rachaad White. He's available in about 55% of leagues right now. So he may be there, he may not. But they talked coming into this week that they wanted to get him more involved, and they definitely did that. He had 22 carries for 105 yards, which was very nice to see because this was the first time that the Bucs have had 100 rushing yards since week 1. They have been historically before this week one of the worst rushing teams in the history of the NFL that since it's been documented since 1973. So they really had an emphasis of trying to get their running game down, and it worked surprisingly because the Seahawks over the past 6-7 weeks have actually been a pretty tough run defense, but the Buccaneers looked great doing it. He had 105 yards. Leonard Fournette did get nicked up in the game with a hip injury. They said likely that he should be fine because they have a bye week. So by the time their bye week's over, they think he should be fine. But Rachaad White started this game, and he still got 20-plus touches. So I think they're going to ride the hot hand, but he has more juice than Leonard Fournette if you're just watching the game. He has more burst. He has more energy. He's able to hit the cuts and holes and edges that Leonard Fournette just can't at this point in his career. So I think you'll see a lot more Rachaad White moving forward.
Yeah, Rachaad White is definitely better on the ground. It should continue to trend his way as far as seeing more snaps as he's a rookie, so should be seeing more opportunities as the season goes on. They are entering a bye week this week. If he's not already owned in your league, he really should have already been. We've been talking about him for the past 4 or 5 waiver shows that we've done. He should be. If he's not, though, you might not be in a super, try-hard league, and you might be able to sneak him this week on a bye week for sure. So if he's not already owned, you might be able to get him this week. So definitely add Rachaad White if he's available. Moving on, we got Jaylen Warren, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is available in most leagues, so should be able to grab this guy. Not a priority ad like the other guys have been so far, but we have seen Jaylen Warren get more snaps, get more involved in the offense. He's been extremely efficient on the ground. I think he's top 10 in true yards per carry on the season, which is impressive. Last week, they were winning, and it was a good game script for running the ball, so they ran the ball a lot. But Outside of that game where Najee Harris was hurt, this was his high in snaps, and he got 9 carries and 3 targets. So it's not a bad workload for him this week. I wouldn't expect to be playing him anytime soon, but he's more of a stash player, a great handcuff, and somebody that you need to keep an eye on going forward.
Yep. Next up for running back is going to be Gus Edwards. He's available in about 50% of your leagues, so good chance that he might be available. His first week back off of IR was week 7 against Cleveland. He had 66 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is lovely. You love to see it. The next game against Tampa Bay, which is a tough defense, he didn't have a great fantasy day because he had 11 rushes for 66 yards, but that is a great real-life game. He's averaging 6 yards a carry against one of the toughest run defenses in the league that just held Kenneth Walker to 17 yards. So he looks great. Kenyon Drake has exceeded massively for fantasy the past few weeks without Gus Edwards there. Whenever they have the guy in the offense that are getting the bulk of the load, they typically are doing well in fantasy. They're a team that has a very good running scheme. They're always able to get guys that are running efficiently, as you can see by his yards per carry of 6 yards per carry, which is phenomenal. So coming off a bye week and off an injury that they're saying he should be good to go for this week, I think he will be available in a lot of leagues. And you can pick this guy up, immediately plug him in your lineup, in my opinion. Not saying you have to. I wouldn't force him in. But if you have bye weeks, if you have injuries, if you are desperate at flex, I think he can be. But I would definitely want to pick this guy up and hold just to see. J.K. Dobbins is still a few weeks away from being able to return. And even when he does, he just hasn't looked right. So I think Gus Edwards will be a main focal point of this running offense for the rest of the season, assuming he stays healthy.
Yeah, and like you said, he just coming off a bye week, he could be available. It could have been dropped if somebody needed to make a fill-in. Gus Edwards probably has a good chance to be the lead back here. I know that Kenyon Drake has been good when the starter, but we have not seen Gus Edwards fully healthy. He has not played, a fully healthy game this season. But like you said, when he has been in there, he has been efficient. I want to note that weeks 15 through 17 is the fantasy playoffs, and he gets Cleveland, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh, which is one of the best playoff schedules that I have found. So the Ravens, you want to target those guys, definitely worth the stash. Like, this is a high upside player that should be rostered in pretty much every league. Is that it for running back?
One other player that you could look to pick up would be running back Keaontay Ingram for the Arizona Cardinals. In a shocking move, the Cardinals did cut running back Benjamin today. For whatever reason, we are not sure, and it did not make sense to me. But currently, James Conner and Keaontay Ingram are the only 2 active running backs on the Cardinals roster. So with James Conner's injury history and how Arizona likes to use one running back in a bell cow-like role, Keaontay Ingram would be a nice handcuff to James Conner, or if you're in a deeper league and you need to just have stashes that have league-winning upside, I think he could have that if James Conner were to get injured. So this isn't a must-add guy, but just if you have a bench spot to play with and you want to see what happens, go grab Keaontay Ingram.